kicking the video off with editing Ashley here. This one required a little bit of an explanation. Originally, I was framing this video as my most anticipated books for all of 2023. That was going to be nearly 80 books that I discussed, and it was taking a really long time. That was gonna be a really long video for you all to watch. It was gonna be a really long video for me to film, and it just didn't feel like it was going to be a good use of time. Typically, I do a most anticipated video at the beginning of the year where I talk about the full year of books I'm excited about, and then every season I will make a most anticipated video where I talk about the summer books, the fall books, the winter books, whatever. And there's usually more books added on because I'm learning about more books as it comes. But this year I just had so many books to talk about. It was gonna be so long. And then I realized I never did my most anticipated winter thriller and horror book releases because technically winter doesn't start until the end of December 21st-ish, I think. I don't know why, but in my head, I always feel like the year goes in quarters instead of seasons, and the first season is spring. And anyway, all of that to say, what you are getting ready to watch is actually my, as the title suggests, most anticipated thriller and horror book releases for winter of 2023, which actually is still ongoing until like almost the end of March. So really, this is the most anticipated thriller and horror book releases for January, February, and March. I don't know why I had to overcomplicate that so much. I'm sure you would have figured it out. I don't know why I couldn't have figured it out, but anyway, let's get into it. Be going in order through the months, so it's going to be batched by month. I'm not going to say the exact date these books are going to release because that does often change, and even the month they're published in could change, but as of now, these are the months that they will be published in, and we're going to start with January, as if you would start anywhere else. First up, we have The Black House by Carol Johnstone. I have read from Carol Johnstone before. I read Mirrorland and I did not love it. I did like the writing style, but I didn't like the direction the story went. So I am cautiously optimistic about this one. It's not going to be a book I immediately pick up, but I will be looking out for reviews. This is a richly atmospheric thriller book set on an isolated Scottish island where nothing is as it seems and shocking twists lie around every corner. Following this woman named Maggie McKay, who as a 5-year-old, she announced that a man on Kilmurray, a place she'd never visited, had been murdered, and that got her a lot of media attention. I guess they don't know if anyone was actually murdered. It was just a weird thing she said. And then you're following her 20 years later as she's trying to uncover what actually happened on the island. It sounds like the atmosphere of this one's going to be really good, being at the Scottish island, but I don't know if the story's really going to hold up. So again, I'm going to be looking out for some early reviews of this one. Next is All Hallows by Christopher Golden, and I do have an arc of this one and I'm super excited to get to it. This is said to be a horror drama book with the 80s nostalgia of Stranger Things, following neighborhood families and a mysterious lurking evil on one Halloween day. So it sounds like this is going to be a supernatural thriller set in a suburb neighborhood during Halloween. It's set in 1984 in Coventry, Massachusetts, and all the children are claiming that the cunning man is coming for them, and someone needs to save the children. Next up is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I really enjoyed the last thing I read from Rachel Hawkins, which was Reckless Girls, so I'm super excited for another book from her. This is a deliciously wicked gothic suspense set at an Italian villa with a dark history for fans of Lucy Foley and Ruth Ware. So I do feel like this is probably going to be a slower paced mystery based on those comparisons to Lucy Foley and Ruth Ware and from what I know of Reckless Girls. The end of this description is also what really interests me because it says, inspired by Fleetwood Mac, the Manson murders, and the infamous summer Percy and Mary Shelley spent with Lord Byron at a Lake Geneva castle, the birthplace of Frankenstein, the villa welcomes you into its deadly legacy. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of things going on here, but set in an Italian villa, that sounds like it's going to be a fun time. Next up is Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumpet, and I believe this is actually a republication. I think Tor is picking it up and it's been published before, but I'm really excited to finally get to it. This is a queer gothic horror story that I think has haunted house vibes to it as well. It says 3 years ago, Alice spent one night in an abandoned house with her friends Ela and Hannah. Since then, Alice's life has spiraled. Memories of that night torment Alice, but when Ela asks her to return to the house to go past the keep out sign and over the sick earth where teenagers dare each other to venture, Alice knows she must go. Together they face the horrors that happen there and pull themselves apart from the inside out, put their differences aside, and try to rescue Hannah, whom the house has chosen to make its own. Next up is You Must Remember This by Kat Rosenfield. This is an author I have not read from before, but the description says it is a Knives Out style whodunit with a twist of Taylor Jenkins Reid. It is an immersive gothic mystery with a long ago love affair, icy death, and a rich family gone bad. So that was enough to pull me into this one. It says, on Christmas Eve, 85-year-old Miriam Gardner walks walks onto the vast frozen river behind her home. As a younger woman, she used to steal out on winter nights to meet her lover, walking straight across the ice to their secret meeting place. She knows the way, but not the year. Miriam, her mind clouded by dementia, doesn't hear the snap of thin ice until it's too late. Was it an accident, suicide, or worse, did someone urge the old woman onto the frozen river on purpose? Next up, one of my most highly anticipated books of the year is The Drift by C.J. Tudor. I love everything I've read from C.J. Tudor, and I cannot wait to read more. I'm going to be reading this with my friend Elizabeth from Reading Riley for her book club in March, so I'm going to have to put it off a little bit so I can read it when it's fresh, but I cannot wait to get my hands on it. This one says, 3 ordinary people risk everything for a chance at redemption in this audacious, utterly gripping novel of catastrophe and survival at the end of the world. So you're following 3 different characters who are each in a dangerous situation. And I think there's also something apocalyptic going on with the world. It says the imminent dangers faced by Hannah, Meg, and Carter are each one part of the puzzle. Lurking in their shadows is an even greater threat, one that threatens to consume all of humanity. So I don't know what that's going to mean, but I'm excited to find out. Next up, one I am personally cautiously optimistic for is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I'm not the biggest fan of Grady Hendrix, but this title definitely hooked me and I'm interested to give him another try. It says, when their parents die at the tail end of the coronavirus pandemic, Louise and Mark Joyner are devastated, but nothing can prepare them for how bad things are about to get. The 2 siblings are almost totally estranged and couldn't be more different. Now, however, they don't have the choice but to get along. The virus has passed and both of them are facing bank accounts ravaged by the economic meltdown. Their one asset, their childhood home. They need to get it on the market as soon as possible because they need the money, yet before her parents died, they taped newspaper over the mirrors and nailed shut the attic door. So essentially you're following these 2 siblings in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic trying to sell their deceased parents' house, and there may be something creepy going on at the house. Next up is Liar, Dreamer, Thief by Maria Dong. This is said to be a gripping page-turner as well as a sensitive exploration of mental health, an intimate portrayal of life in all its complexities, and the dangers inherent in unveiling people's most closely guarded secrets. You're following Katrina Kim, who is broke, the black sheep of her family, and slightly unhinged, but she is not a stalker. She becomes obsessed with her coworker Kurt, and she's sort of stalking him. And then one day she finds a cryptic message from him that implies that he is aware of her surveillance, and then he ends up jumping off of a bridge and committing suicide. Before he jumps, he slams her with a devastating accusation that his death is all her fault. And then she starts going through the last couple of years as she's been stalking him and trying to uncover what was really going on with him. This one sounds really emotional and right up my alley. Next up is a horror book called Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This is not an author that I've read from before, but this one sounds really interesting. It says a ghost hunting reality TV crew gain unprecedented access to an abandoned and supposedly haunted mansion, which promises a groundbreaking 13th episode. But as they uncover the secret history of the house, they learn that reality TV might be all too real. I love the idea of a book with a ghost hunting show. I've read that before with The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gould, and I really enjoyed that, so I think this will be a really fun one. Next up is Going Dark by Melissa De La Cruz. This is a mystery thriller book where a influencer named Amelia Ashley goes missing, and it seems like you're following a lot of different perspectives of people who are trying to figure out what happened to her. There is her, the influencer, she has a boyfriend, there's a hacker named Harper Delgado who is working her way through the digital pieces of it. There's another girl who went missing 2 years ago who never made headlines or had a trending hashtag like Amelia Ashley does, and then there's the truth of what happened. Next up is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson, and this looks like it's the beginning of a series. The synopsis of this one is just as the title suggests, where you're following this guy named Ernest Cunningham, and everyone in his family has killed someone, including himself. It says, I'm Ernest Cunningham, call me Ern or Ernie. I wish I'd killed whoever decided our family union should be at a ski resort, but it's a little more complicated than that. That's really all the synopsis gives us, so there's some kind of family reunion between these members of a family who have all killed someone. I don't know what's going to happen, but it sounds interesting. Next up is The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes. It says, armed with only hazy memories, a woman who long ago witnessed her friend's sudden mysterious death and has since spent her life trying to forget, sets out to track down answers. What she uncovers deep in the woods is hardly to be believed. Utterly unique and captivating, The House in the Pines keeps you guessing about whether we can ever fully confront the past and return home. Going into February, we have She is a Haunting by Trang Thanh Tran. Apologies if I did not say the author's name correctly. This is a young adult, queer, fantasy, gothic, paranormal, horror, all of the buzzwords for me. It says a house with a terrifying appetite haunts a broken family in this atmospheric horror perfect for fans of Mexican Gothic, aka me. Following a girl named Jade who arrives in Vietnam for a visit with her estranged father. She has one goal: survive 5 weeks pretending to be a happy family in the French colonial home that he is restoring. She's always lied to fit in, so if she's straight enough, Vietnamese enough, American enough, she can get out with the college money he promised. But the house has other plans. At night, Jade can't ignore the ghost of the beautiful bride who leaves her cryptic warnings: don't eat. Next up is The Spite House by Johnny Compton. Eric Ross is on the run from a mysterious past with his 2 daughters in tow. Having left his wife, his house, his whole life behind in Maryland, he's desperate for money. It's not easy to find safe work when you can't provide references, you can't stay in one place for long, and you're paranoid that your past is creeping back up on you. When he comes across the strange ad for the Mason house in Degener, Texas, Eric thinks they may have finally caught a lucky break. The Mason property, notorious for being one of the most haunted places in Texas, needs a caretaker of sorts. The owner is looking for proof of paranormal activity. All they need to do is stay in the house and keep a detailed record of everything that happens there, provided the house's horrors don't drive them all mad like the caretakers before them. Next up is Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Samberry. This is said to be The Haunting of Hill House meets Sadie in this evocative and mind-bending psychological thriller following 2 teen girls navigating the treacherous past of a mysterious mansion 10 years apart. So this is a young adult horror with paranormal aspects to it as well, and it says that it is over 500 pages, so it sounds chunky, but it also sounds like an interesting story, and it has an incredible cover. You're following Brittany, who's investigating this mansion in the present, and Daisy, whose story is running parallel in the past, both timelines propelling the girls to face the most dangerous monsters of all, those that hide in plain sight. Next up is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This is a thriller that is said to be The Plot meets Please Join Us, in a psychological suspense debut about a young author at an exclusive writer's retreat that descends into a nightmare. So all of these authors decide to go to this retreat to work on their books, and then something goes horribly wrong. It says it is a claustrophobic and propulsive thriller exploring the dark side of friendships and fame. Next is The Angel Maker by Alex North. I'm so excited to have a new book from Alex North. It feels like it's been so long. This is said to be a dark, suspenseful new thriller about the mysteries of fate, the unbreakable bond of siblings, and a notorious serial killer who was said to know the future. Alex North's books usually blend mystery, thriller, and horror elements, and I usually love them, so I'm hoping this will be a good time. Next up is another one with a really fun title. This is called Murder Your Employer: The McMaster's Guide to Homicide by Rupert Holmes. From the diabolical imagination of Edgar Award-winning novelist, playwright, and story songwriter Rupert Holmes comes a devilish thriller with a killer concept. The McMaster's Conservatory for the Applied Arts, a luxurious clandestine college dedicated to the fine art of murder where earnest students study how best to delete their most deserving victim. So basically there is this academy where you go and you learn how to kill your enemies. Says a delightful mix of witty wordplay, breathtaking twists, and a genuine intrigue. Murder Your Employer will gain your admission into a wholly original world cocooned within the most entertaining book about well-intentioned would-be murderers you'll ever read. Next is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez, and there are also illustrators that are credited along with the author's name in Goodreads, so I imagine there will be some illustrations for this one as well. The genres for this one are marked as horror, fiction, fantasy, queer, historical fiction, women's fiction. There's a lot of different things going on here, and it says it's over 600 pages, so that does sound like a lot, but it also sounds really interesting. A young father and son set out on a road trip, devastated by the death of the wife and mother they both love. United in grief, the pair travels to her family home where they must confront the terrifying legacy she has bequeathed. The woman they grieve came from a clan like no other, a centuries-old secret society called the Order that commits unspeakable acts in search of eternal life. For Gaspar, the son, this vampiric cult is his destiny. But now Gaspar is in danger. As the Order tries to possess him, father and son take flight. Yet nothing will stop the Order, for nothing is beyond them. Hunted by evil and surrounded by horror, Gaspar and his father attempt to outrun a powerful family that will do anything to ensure its own survival. But can any of us escape the fate that awaits us? And lastly for February is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chotsky. This is an author I've heard about before, but I've never read anything from them. I believe they typically write young adult fantasy, and this is an adult book from them. It says a sumptuous gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship curse to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. Combining the lush, haunting atmosphere of Mexican Gothic with the dreamy enchantment of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a spellbinding and darkly romantic page-turner about love and lies, secrets and betrayal, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. Moving into March, the first book we have to talk about is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, who is not an author that I have had a lot of success with. So this is another one that I'm cautiously optimistic about. I'm going to wait for some early reviews and then decide if I'm going to pick it up or not. This is said to be a haunting Southern Gothic that explores the dark, twisted roots lurking just beneath the veneer of a perfect home and family. Next up is one I'm super interested in, and that is Unnatural Ends by Christopher Wong. This is said to be 450 pages, so that does intimidate me, and this is a historical mystery, which also kind of intimidates me, but it sounds really fun. I don't know exactly what date this one is set in, but you're following this guy named Sir Lawrence Linwood, who got murdered with a medieval mace, and the murderer calls home his 3 adopted children, who are Alan, an archaeologist, Roger, an engineer, and Caroline, a journalist. But his heirs soon find that his last testament contains a strange proviso that his estate shall go to the heir who solves his murder. So this definitely sounds like it has Knives Out vibes to it. There's an inheritance, there's a murder, family secrets, family drama. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, but it also sounds really long, but I am excited for it. And I do have an arc of this one as well, so I'm hoping to get to it early. Next is Mothered by Zoji Stage. I've never read from this author before, but they always end up on my radar, and hopefully I will finally get to one of their books in 2023. This is said to be a claustrophobic psychological thriller about one woman's nightmare spiral while quarantined with her mother. These are the types of thrillers and horror books I'm expecting to see more of soon, now that we have gone a couple years through the pandemic. I feel like everyone's writing these like horrifying quarantine stories in mid-2020, and then it takes a couple years for them to be published. So this is one of the first ones I'm seeing like that, and I'm definitely interested in it. Next up is Piñata by Leopoldo Gaut, and this is said to be A Head Full of Ghosts meets Hereditary. I could not think of a more perfect combination of things that I love. Carmen Sanchez is back in her home country of Mexico, overseeing the renovation of an ancient cathedral into a boutique hotel. Her teenage daughters are with her for the summer and left to fill their afternoons unsupervised in a foreign city. The locals treat the Sanchez women like outsiders, while Carmen's contractors openly defy and sabotage her work. After a disastrous accident at the construction site nearly injures Luna, Carmen's had enough. They're leaving. Back in New York, Luna begins acting strange, and only Iselle notices the chilling changes happening to her younger sister. But it might be too late for the Sanchez family to escape what's been awakened. Next is What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez. This is a deeply powerful, raw debut novel that's equal parts hilarious and haunting of a Puerto Rican family in Staten Island who discovers their long-missing sister is potentially alive and cast on a reality TV show, and they set out to bring her home. So essentially, this family had one of their family members go missing, and then all these years later, they think they're seeing her on a reality TV show, and so they decide to go haul themselves out there to go see if that's her and take her back. I would guess it's not her, and this is going to be more of a literary fiction reflection on grief and coping in a more emotional story based on the description, but I don't know. It could go either way. It's a mystery. We will see. Next up is The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. A killer is on the loose when someone turns up dead on the set of a hit TV baking competition in this darkly beguiling debut novel that is perfect for fans of Lucy Foley, Nita Prose, and Anthony Horowitz. Soon to be a limited series on Hulu. I don't know when this is coming to Hulu, but I love reading a good mystery before it makes its way to TV. And this sounds really fun that it's following a TV baking competition and some things going wrong. Next is Not So Perfect Strangers by L.S. Stratton. This is a modern spin on strangers on a train. So you're following these two strangers who meet each other, and sounds like they decide to commit crimes for the other ones. Tasha and Madison Gingell may have very different everyday realities, but what they have in common is marriages they need out of. The two women want to help each other, but they have very different ideas of what that means. So that is it for all of my most anticipated thriller and horror book releases for the winter of 2023. Editing Ashley, back at you, because I didn't film an outro to the video initially because I was still going to keep going. I actually went into April and it really started to get out of control. I got very tired, and that's where the whole reframing the video came in. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found some new books to add to your radar. Let me know which books you're gonna be most excited for, and let me know if there's any that weren't on my list that you're excited for that I should put on my radar as well. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!